Madhvacharya to the Shrotra to the Shri Shivaji to the Vaishnava Sharanamari Mokiram Sai Maharaj Prabhupada ki jai. Anandapati Vaishnava Krishna ki jai. Namacharya Shri Thakur Haridas ki jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shyam Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Pravati Mayapur Dham ki jai. Ganga Vai ki jai. Tulsi Rani ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Yamuna Maharani ki jai. Shri Harinama Sankirtana ki jai. Grantaraj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. ISKCON Governing Sansthapak Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go Premanande. All glories be some devotees. All glories be some devotees. All glories be some devotees. All glories to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Jai Shri Prabhupada. First of all, I would like to thank you all for coming to this program, and thank Suresh Krishna Prabhu and others for organizing it and inviting me to speak here. It's a great honor, and I'm very happy to see many of you I know from before. So today I thought we could discuss always a relevant topic from Srila Rupa Goswami's Upadeshamrita, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada in the form of Nectar instruction. And particularly we can take a look at text number 5. We were thinking of a topic for today's program, and no matter what verse was suggested, each one of them is an ocean, so it's hard to it just keeps expanding. Anandam Buddhi Vartana. Anyway, so we'll try to keep it contained here. Last night we were very fortunate to go and visit the Lord in the form of Stalashayana Pigma nearby. Raise your hand if you've been to this Jigadesha. Yes. Yeah. Your Mahabali. What do you call it? Tirukadalmalai. This is prasadam. Who wants it? Okay. Alright, so we'll begin as always with Mangalacharna. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhujate Rupa-karamahyam Dadati Swatantyam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sakrajatam Sarvanatham Hidantam Sajivam Savaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padamam Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopikadhanga Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhan Vasute Devi Pranamami Hare Vancha Kalpataram Krishna Kripa Sindhyam Srila Prabhupada Srila Sari Gaurava Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mandari Hari Gopal Kriya Kripaya Yati Tadayvasam Kayahapitva Krishne Pustakriyatanaha. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur at the end of his commentary on the 10th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam says, he prays, my dear Lord Prabhupada, only if you accept my words as your cows will I be able to produce milk that will satisfy all of your dear devotees. So I'm making that prayer, following in his footsteps. Krishneti yasya kiritam manasathriyeta dikshasti chekranadikishcha bhajantani shantu shushrushaya bhajana vidyananyamanya ninda vishunya hitamipsita sampadabhya. This is again text 5 of the Deshamritam of Srila Goswami, dear disciple of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it means one should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name of Lord Krishna. One should offer humble obeisances to the devotee who has undergone spiritual initiation, Diksha, and is engaged in worshiping the deity. And one should associate with and faithfully serve that pure devotee who is advanced in undeviating devotional service and whose heart is completely devoid of the propensity to criticize others. We have a long report by Srila Prabhupada. Would you like me to read the entire report first and then comment, or should I comment as we read? First of all, there is a definite structure to this wonderful, wonderful book by Goswami, again translated as Nectar of Instruction by Srila Prabhupada. A to Z of spiritual life is given in this book, beginning with the most practical and preliminary instruction that we have to hear. Be a human being. Control your senses. Beginning with the tongue. And, well, I'll just read it. It's very nice. A sober person who can tolerate the urge to speak, the mind's demands, the actions of anger, and the urges of the tongue, belly, and genitals, is qualified to make disciples all over the world. Then he gives us a couple of verses which in a nutshell describe what you should do once you have accomplished that. You should avoid 6 things. What are they? He says, Atiyahara prayasascha, Priyanto Nyamakra, Jalasangascha, Lolyamcha, Shadbir Bhakti Vinashiti. Your bhakti, my friends, will be destroyed if you're not careful about your association. Kyun? Because Sangat Sanjayate Kama. Whatever you associate with, or whoever you associate with, that's what you desire. And whatever you desire, you're going to do that sooner or later. And whatever you do, that's where you're going. So we are the architect of our own future. We have a limited window of opportunity in the human form of life to get it together, so to speak. That's what this verse is giving us golden advice, how to do that. Avoid these 6 things. Don't. Ahara, ati ahara. Ahara. It means to bring too much to yourself. If we study Ishopanishad, we know everybody has a quota. What your quota, what you need. What you actually need and what you want, they may not be the same thing. Usually they're not the same thing. What we need is 6 feet vertical space, 3 feet horizontal space, unless we're really fat. And maybe, in Vrindavan, I can say 5, 6 chapatis here, you don't have to go say anything. So that's what we need, and a little shelter from the elements. It's hot here. So we have to just take that only. But especially as Prabhupada is indicating, eating more or collecting more, and especially collecting money. This is the same. Here in India, I say that people are more fond of money than elsewhere. When I first came to the airport, just all the billboards, Tangamali, Chennai. So, over-endeavoring for mundane things that are difficult to obtain. Sometimes we can't always have what we want. We have to work really hard. That's okay. Nahi suprasi sinhasya pravishanti mukhe vrigaha. The Hitopadesh tells us, even if you're a lion, the hang of the forest, everyone's afraid. Still, you have to work. It's not to sleep. You can go to sleep with your mouth open and the deer is going to walk in. So that's, Lakshmi does not come to the house of someone who is lazy. But over-endeavor, that will destroy our bhakti. We'll not be able to do bhakti if we're too much absorbed in the new house, or that car, or the promotion, or the daughter's wedding, or adi. There's no end to it. Talking unnecessarily about mundane subject matters. Unnecessary talk. And Prabhupada gives the example of frogs. Here in this neighborhood, at least where I'm staying, you have to watch your step. Because there's little tiny froggies. They come from over here. So at night, we have them in Vrindavan also. It's in Varsha. They like to talk. And what happens when they talk to each other? Snakes. Naturally, snakes. Quick meal. So we also have that tendency. It's not necessary to say half the things that we say. More than half the things that we say is not necessary. Especially if you're like my wife. She's not here. So. I said this about women. They have a verb for it in Indic. It's like to talk. But that helps everybody. And what else? Talking more than required, especially if it's not necessary. Talk what's really necessary. The same things that are necessary for us to bring into our lives. Very little is what's really necessary is Krishna, and that we don't do. We don't talk about Krishna, isn't it? We talk about this one or that one. We got a church out there and now. That's what it is. What is that? Ninda, Surdas, what he says. Ninda Shabda Dasha. Very religious sound. Criticizing other people. This is unnecessary and it's harmful. It hurts that person and it hurts you also. Krishna advises Uddhava in Canto 11. Do not criticize and do not praise the conditional natures and activities of other people. We all have a conditional nature, Swabhava. That Swabhava will tell us to do conditional activities, the things that we do, whatever we're habituated. But you should not praise a person's conditional nature, because if you praise it, it gives it encouragement in that thing only, which may be mundane and not necessarily progressive. But if you criticize, that's even worse, because then the person just becomes discouraged. Well, what am I supposed to do? I can't change my nature overnight. So one has to be very careful. Speak only things that are necessary to speak. And do not unnecessarily criticize, especially. Practicing the scriptural rules and regulations only for the sake of following them. This is called niyama agraha. Just like we have ahara, we have agraha. Graha means to grab something. So you're enthusiastically embracing all the rules and regulations, even the little ones, that's okay. But if you're only doing it for the sake of following the rules and not for the sake of actually getting out of material existence and reawakening love, real, eternal relationship, then there's a useless waste of time. It will destroy your bhakti, actually. On the other hand, niyama, you can take it in two ways. Niyama agraha or niyama agraha. If you fail to follow the rules and regulations, that's just many worse. One has to follow everything Prabhupada said, even the little ones. even the little rules. Why? Because they seem to complicate our lives, they seem to make it difficult for us, but actually it makes it easier for us. That's the whole point. And you don't realize this until you do it. Then you think, how could I have been like that before? This is why Krishna says in chapter 15 of Bhagavad-gita, Yadanto yogena shtenam pashyanti atmanivasitam, Yadanto pratatmanam enam pashyanti chetasam. Those who are practicing this process, actually applying it. I was reading last night, Krishna Consciousness wrote a wonderful book, Living the Theology of Krishna-bhakti. And he's explaining there that in Hinduism, orthopraxis is more important than orthodoxy. To be orthodox means you believe the right things. We know about Hinduism, the nature is that Hinduism you can believe anything you want to believe. But you can only do what Krishna says to do. What you want to believe, that's practically limitless in Hinduism. But what you do, that's very narrow. You can only do your swadharma. What Krishna says. It's a famous verse everybody knows. Now it's your only adhikar is to do your karma. Karmani adhikara setya. So, Madhuleshu Kadachna, but you can't have your paycheck. Who's going to do that? You can't even take pride in what you're doing. This is half the things we do, it's for pride. You can't do that, Krishna says. And and you can't not do anything. We've already been there. We've already discussed you cannot be lazy. You're not going to walk into your mouth if you're sleeping lying. So that's a tall order. I once had a question, and I went to the University of Hawaii. There was a very nice man, Sanskrit, and I had some questions about the Upanishads, but he just dismissed them all. He said, no. Think practically, he said. Man on the street, how are you going to sell this to the man on the street? This is slavery. He quoted this verse. That's what Krishna is asking for, actually. So, anyway, the point is, if we follow the scriptural rules and regulations for the right purpose, which is to really understand what real love is, because that love is eternal. You don't have to give it up at the time of death. This becomes more relevant if you're, as you, past 50, 60, 70. Can you all hear me? Yes. You don't have that so much. So we don't want to reject the rules and work whimsically. That's what it means by just talk something or imagine something or invent something. No, you have to follow what the acarya is saying. Mahajano lina gadasa sapanta. Whatever path the acarya has drawn before you, don't change it. Do that. That's guaranteed. You will not fall. You may or may not go up depending on what you want, but you will not fall. This is the real value of the real Vedic civilization has this characteristic. You cannot be great if you follow the rules and regulations, but don't just follow them for the sake of being a strict person or being, so that people will recognize that it's so advanced or all the wrong reasons. Follow for the right purpose. Okay? Then here's the biggest one in Jnana Sangha. Associating with ordinary worldly people. That actually we do this. More than we recognize we do this. Okay. Virtually everyone in the room seems to be distracted. We collect ourselves, everybody focus. If we associate with worldly-minded persons, we've already discussed, we will develop their worldly tendencies. It's only natural. Sangat Sanjayate Kama. And if we associate with other worldly things also, like what? Well, what's available on YouTube? All kinds of stuff, isn't it? All kinds of things. And they're not necessarily going to help us. So, Krishna Goswami used to say this, that this was in the days of television, that, you're watching television, it's like associating with all these materialists for however long it is that you're associating. Maybe it's this one not working here. So be careful of that. Try to minimize. Worldly-minded people, try to just back off a little bit. So, and then, especially if they're not interested in Krishna consciousness, here's a very strict thing which is discouraging. When asked who's the devotee, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said what? Satsanga Acarya Vaishnava. Somebody who gives up the non-devotional association. And then he also divined that association. One is a non-devotee of Krishna, and the other one is maybe he's a devotee or not, but he's attached to the other two steps. Shackles that keep us bound to this world, ball and chain. And we all have it. It's high in the heart. We hide it, but it's there. This is the problem. So, and then finally, Gaudiya. What does Gaudiya mean? Heavy greed. Heavy greed. It goes along, it's the thing that inspires that over endeavor that you mentioned already. Prayasa. Alright, these are the negatives. Now we have positives, and this is such wonderful advice. If you just learn these two verses, keep them on your tongue every day, you will find that you make advancements so rapidly you can respect them. Here's the golden advice. Utsaham nishtayat dhairyat tat karma pravartanat sangatyavat sadovrittehi shatir bhakti prasiddhi. If there are six principles favorable to the execution of pure devotional service. 1. Be enthusiastic. Even if you don't want to dance, do it anyway. Even if you don't want to smile at this person, do it anyway. Be enthusiastic. It will astonish you how much you can accomplish just by being enthusiastic. Now, how do you be enthusiastic? By force, in this way. Anybody know what Prabhupada said when someone asked him this question? How do we develop enthusiasm? Who knows? Try to do that. Okay, but no, we're asking how. Well, where do you get the strength to do this? Yeah. Here's it. Getting a lot of answers, but the one that I'm thinking. Well, association is the answer for everything. Catch all. Everything happens in association only. It's a time for Sangat. But what Prabhupada said, to develop enthusiasm, you strictly follow the regular principles. Have you heard this morning already? Yes. In the last verse, if you take the trouble to follow everything very strictly, you will be enthusiastic because the process is like that. It has to work. It's like I went to see an Ayurvedic physician, quasi-Ayurvedic. So, Ayurveda the way it is perfect science. It always works 100% of the time if the doctor wants it to work. Sometimes they have other motives, they sell medicine, they have to pay those also. But if the doctor is good and you have discipline to follow, it will definitely work. But you have to be patient. And that's the next thing. Utsaham nishtayat dharyat. Dhairya. Nishtaya means you have to believe in what you're doing. You have to be convinced. And dhairya means you have to be really disciplined, patient. You have to wait. It's not going to happen overnight, like Ayurveda. I've been to so many Ayurvedic doctors over the years. And it's been my experience and also the instruction that I've received. You cannot expect it will work very soon. It takes time. A few months maybe before you see anything. You have to be patient. So Krishna consciousness is of that nature. Actually, anything that is of high value, we call that shreyas, is like this. You don't instantly get a payoff. You have to invest. And investment requires faith. Think about how we invest our money. We're very careful, isn't it? That kind of careful thought we have to put into what we invest our enthusiasm in, our patience in, our determination, etc., etc. Then, tat karma pravartanat, we have to follow the principles. And in particular, devotional principles, which Prabhupada says here means shravana, kirtana, Krishna smarana, not just darshana. Pradana. You see, people come to the temple, they do darshana, they do dhan, that's fine, good. But really, if you want to actually go somewhere in the human form of life, you have to hear. This one verse from the 7th chapter of Bhagavad-gita is the one that Srila Prabhupada spoke on more than any other verse. Do you know the verse? Who knows the verse? Someone recite the verse, please. I'm thinking of chapter 7. Yasaktamana Partha. You probably know that one. If you're sincere about this, if you really want to know Krishna, that's true, just listen. We make this joke all the time. Bhagavad-gita as it is. Have you heard it? Shrink wrapped. Just leave it on the shelf. As it is. No. You got to open it up. And then you get the benefit of it. And what does he say? Bhagavad-gita yonas. Bhagavad-gita kinchirita tamra janalavakanagapita. Just a little bit of Bhagavad-gita. And you're safe. You'll be safe from the greatest times here. So, this is what he means by Tatta Karma Vartana. Sangatyagat, Anvaya Vyatireka, Tyagti. In Nyaya, we have this thing, which probably most of you don't know. Positive coverage, negative coverage. Just like we say, always remember Krishna means never forget Krishna. Similarly, give up the association with non-devotees means take up the association with devotees. So this is Anvaya Vyatireki Vyapti. It's a logical thing. So, and throughout Vedic literature, whenever we have an instruction, well, there are all two instructions, aren't there? There's a Nisheda, which is the negative instruction, and there's a, what do we call the positive? Vidhi, which is enjoying. You have to do the kiyate. So, this is the point. And then finally, after Sangyami, Sato Vritte. What does it mean? Sato Vritte. Follow in the footsteps of the acharyas. And elsewhere, Srila Prabhupada translates this phrase, not as following in the footsteps of the previous acharyas, but living a clean lifestyle. That's very important. Because here everything is cheating, right? So that's the diet they come. You're surrounded by cheaters and tendency will be to cheat also. Don't do that. Be sadhu. This is what it means, sat. Sato. Live like a saint person. If you do these 6 things, your life will no doubt about it. All this that we've discussed so far. Well, there's one more actually. We're getting to the actual topic. What do the devotees do along with each other? How do they show affection? Dadati Krishna-bhakti. These 6 things. They give gifts to charity. They accept things they inquire confidentially, and they reveal their minds to the appropriate person. They take prasad, they offer prasad. This is how we show affection. But you can't do this indiscriminately. This is the thing. That's why we chose text number 5. Which I've already read. One should mentally honor the devotee who chants the holy name. He's the holy name of everybody. Anybody chants, anyone, you should honor him in your mind. And you should actually pay obeisance to that person who is so serious that he's taking an initiation and he's actually practically worshiping Krishna. But your unreserved faith, your attitude of service and humble submission and inquiry, that is to be reserved for the ultimate, the person who's really, really intense. What does all this mean? It means we have to discriminate who we even amongst devotees, who we associate with. Let's hear what Srila Prabhupada says. In order to, the first sentence, in order to intelligently apply the sixfold loving reciprocations mentioned in the previous verse, one must select proper persons with careful discrimination. This is Prabhupada. I told you this book has structure to it, so we're proceeding. If you're serious about making advancement and actually doing these things, these questions will arise. Hey, there's a problem here. I revealed my mind to that person, and what did he do? He spread it all over the community. See? Practical. So you have to use your discrimination. And this verse is giving us some general guidelines about how to do that. Srila Goswami therefore advises that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way. Bhaktivedanta Thakur also says this. What is that verse? Shakale Shaman Korige Shakti Dehunata Jatata. Not just, it is not that everybody's the same. You give respect to everyone, that's the same. You have to respect everyone, and how you respect them, how much you respect them, that depends on who they are. So this is also applicable in the world of devotees. According to their particular status, Srila Prabhupada says. Back to what you know. What does he say? If you do this, they have not to talk about what's the next. Who knows the song? I just now also forgetting. Anyway, if you do this, then you will have the power to chant the holy name. You will have faith, you will have determination, somebody can look at it. So this verse is telling us how to deal with 3 kinds of devotees. In Nectar Devotion, Chapter 3, which somebody else can bring up, please. You got this on your phone, anyone? Nectar Devotion, Chapter 3. We've got 2 searches going on simultaneously. My mental Rolodex is not so sharp as it used to. 3rd paragraph. 3rd, 4th, and 5th paragraph. Read it out loud.
Devotees may be divided into 3 classes. The devotee in the first or uppermost class is
the devotee in the first. We don't know what it means to be a Hindu because nobody's ever told us. We only know that Hindu means you go to the Shikoil and you eat pongal and you go home. So finally they heard something from Prabhupada that's Shastric because we were hearing from a Bhagavad-gita. Finally we were hearing from the Shastric. And then you make investment. It's so easy. But we have to hear. Now, Akanishta Adhikari are these people. They come to the temple, they give some donation, they, like you said, darshan, trust. But they don't have knowledge. And what's the result of that? The result of not hearing adequately is that somebody comes along, some, together Christian with his rapid fire Bible quotes and, we're going to Parnam Krishna, right? They call that. He gives money also, and all my friends are becoming Christians also, and this is why this is Krishna. It's a very tenuous position. Like Shankaracharya said, Nandini Tadagana Javanati Tala, Tatvaji Vidamashayatama. Khas if you're a Kanishta Adhikari. You can fall any time as a Kanishta Adhikari. That's the great Krishna. It's a liability. This is why Prabhupada is constantly urging us, do not stay on that platform. Hear something, seriously, apply what you hear, make advancement. It leads to the Madhyama Adhikara platform, and then you'll be relatively safe. But the Kanishta, and they don't have the arguments, and also their senses are less controlled because of that. The intelligence is not supplied when they need it. So, this is a very tenuous condition. Now, in case you haven't noticed, we've been hearing first class, second class. This is the third class devotee, Kanishta Adhikari. Each class is increasing in numbers. The least in human society that you're going to find are these Uttama Adhikaris. Very rare. Madhyama Adhikari is okay. You come to ISKCON, there's some of that. Kanishta Adhikaris, that's by far the majority. So this is why Hinduism is in such a state that it's in no knowledge, no discrimination. What kind of discrimination? Viveka is missing in Hinduism. I say this all the time if you hear my lectures. Pramana. What does pramana mean? That's a fancy philosophical term. Means how do you know what you know? There's a way to know things. There's a right way to know things. There's a wrong way. A way to really know things. Actually, pramana means valid perception, valid understanding. Anything else is an invalid understanding. So the Kanishta Adhikaris, they're under siege by so many misconceptions because they have not heard properly. And so they can't act properly, and most of them fall away. What are the stats that Krishna gives in Bhagavad-gita? Anybody know? Manushyanam Sahasreshu Vidyat. Out of many thousands, he says, one guy's going to try. And out of many thousands of those, hardly one will become Uttama. So this is a great problem. Entry-level Krishna consciousness means Kanishta Adhikara. It's a very tenuous position to be in. So we have to push through that with determination, and as we've heard in the previous two texts already, we have to muster the enthusiasm, we've got to follow the principles, we have to avoid the bad guys. Okay, did you finish?
The neophyte's faith can be changed by someone else with strong arguments or by an opposite decision. Unlike the second class devotee, who also cannot put forward arguments and evidences from the scripture, but who still has faith in the objective, the neophyte has no firm faith in the objective. Thus, he is called the neophyte devotee.
Kanishta, please, next. Okay. So, Srila Prabhupada's purport says, Srila Goswami therefore advised that we should meet with the Vaishnavas in an appropriate way according to the particular status. Have you noticed something about these three adhikaris? What is it that actually distinguishes them other than these characteristics? Prabhupada said. There's one thing that determines which slot you go into. What is it? It's the depth of your shraddha. If you have very deep shraddha and it's supported by Shastric knowledge, you're going to do it. If you have strong shraddha but not so fortified, then you're a Madhyama Adhikari. If your Shraddha is weak, they call it Bhaktivedanta calls them Komala Shraddhas. Soft beats, you can say. This is the Kanishta Adhikaris. So faith is so important. Prabhupada further goes on to clarify these three in this report. The Kanishta Adhikari is a neophyte who has received Harinam initiation from the spiritual master and is trying to chant the holy name of Krishna. One should respect such a person when his mind is a Kanishta Vaishnava. A Madhyama Adhikari has received spiritual initiation from the spiritual master and has been fully engaged by him in the transcendental loving service of the Lord. The Madhyama Adhikari should be considered to be situated midway in devotional service. Madhyama means intermediate. Uttama Adhikari, or the highest devotee, is one who is very advanced in devotional service. When the Uttama Adhikari is not interested in blaspheming others, his heart is completely clean, and he has attained a realized state of unalloyed Krishna consciousness. Unalloyed. Everything is alloyed here, isn't it? Just like gold. Nobody has According to Rupa Goswami, the association and service of such a Mahabhagavata, we say that Uttama Adhikari is called Mahabhagavata, great devotee. So his association is most desirable. One should not remain a Kanishta Adhikari or one who is on the lowest platform of devotional service and is only interested in the duty of the temple. Kanishta Adhikari means practically, well, you're probably close to the 11th canto I mentioned earlier. Arjayam hari pujam yahshate hate nadad bhakteshu janyeshu sabhakta prakatha smritah. A person who is very faithfully engaged in worship of the deity in the temple, but does not know how to behave towards devotees or towards people in general, is called a prakata bhakta or kanishta adhikari. What does prakata bhakta mean? Prakata, what does it mean? Beginning. Huh? Beginning. No. Kanishta means beginning. Prakata, study nature. Natural devotee. Yeah, he's casual. Just by his nature, he's going along. And Prabhupada also translated as a material devotee, materialistic devotee. He's a devotee, but he's materialistic because his knowledge is not quite there yet. So this is Kanishta. One therefore has to raise himself from the position of Kanishta Adhikari to the platform of Madhyama Adhikari. And that Madhyama Adhikari is defined in Srimad-Bhagavatam. This is 11th canto, chapter 2. Good to read that chapter for those of you who are interested. 11th canto, chapter 2. And this particular verse is number 46. Ishware tadadhideshu vadesheshu vishasucha prema maitri kripo dekshaya karoti samadhyama. The Madhyama Adhikari is a devotee who worships the Supreme Personality of God as the highest object of love. He makes friends with the Lord's devotees, he is merciful to the ignorant, and he avoids those who are envious by nature. So 4 things characterize the Madhyama Adhikari, or the second class devotee. He loves Krishna, he befriends the devotees, he shows kindness to those who are below him, and he avoids people who are envious. These are very, very important things. We have to apply these things in our lives. We will come across people who are envious. What do? You just keep a low profile, don't criticize, let the point. You will come across people who are junior to you. Do not exploit them, which is very easy to do if you have a little knowledge. Easy to fool anyone. That's what Bhaktivedanta Swami said. In an audience where nobody knows Sanskrit, all you have to say is kaswa, kaswa, kaswa. Everybody thinks, oh yes, it's very hard. It's true. So, but with juniors, the appropriate thing, be kind to them. Give them something. Help them. Don't descend to the neophyte platform yourself and become envious of them. Thinking, oh, this one's going to come up and then he'll push me out of my spot, and then what do? Indra has its problems. anytime some philosophy becomes too, powerful, he sends some Buddhishi or some Samsara to talk about.